Hello and welcome! In this lecture we're going to make a nice throw grenade action. This will be an action which, unlike the shooting, instead of dealing damage to just one position, it will deal damage to multiple units within a certain radius. The grenade flies, explodes, and deals damage. Alright, so let's begin by building our action. So let's go into our scripts actions folder. Let's create a brand new C# script. Call this the grenade action. Then let's select the unit prefab. And over here let's attach the grenade action. Okay, so now here, as usual, the first thing that we're going to do is instead of extending model behavior, we extend base action. Then we need to implement all the functions. So let's use the light bulb to implement the abstract class. There it is. Here's all the functions that we need to implement. So let's do them. First of all, for the name, let's just return grenade. Then for the enemy AI action, for now, let's leave it the most basic thing. So just return, create a new one, pass in this grid position, and for the action value, let's just put 0. Okay, next up for the valid action grid position list. For this one, let's say just this unit grid position. So like we did on the spin action, again, we're doing just a quick thing just for testing. So let's put just this. So on the grenade action, let's do this. Okay. And finally on the take action, like I said, let's not do anything. Let's just implement the most basic things. So over here, let's just call action start. And to verify that it's working, let's also add a debug.log called grenade action. Then here we need to pass in the on action complete. And finally, let's make an update to pretty much just end the action immediately. So let's make here a private void update. And on update, first of all, like with all the other ones, let's test if not is active. If it is not active, then we return. But if it is, then let's just do immediately action complete. Alright, so here we've got all of the basics for implementing an action. As you can see, super simple. Just like this, we should already be able to see the action in the UI and be able to take the action. And yep, right away we do see our grenade action in the UI. So if we select it, yep, the valid position is that one. And if we click on it and look into logs, yep, we do have our grenade action. Okay, everything's working so far. Now let's make the grenade action proper. First, let's handle the list of valid grid positions. For this one, we want it to be a radius around this unit. So we can actually copy pretty much the same logic as on the shoot action. So let's go here onto the shoot action. Let's find the list for getting the valid grid positions. Okay, so let's copy all of this. Let's go into the grenade action and over here, let's paste it. Okay. Then first thing we need is to refactor this one. So instead of calling it max shoot distance, let's call it the max throw distance. So replace all of these. Then let's go up here to define it. So a private int max throw distance, and let's put it at 7. Okay. Then the next error is we need the unit grid position. So let's get that. So a grid position for the unit grid position, go into the unit and get the grid position. All right. And let's see any more errors. Okay, the raycast. So let's actually solve all of these. So for our testing, we do want to test if it's a valid grid position. We do want to test for a circular range. Then we don't care if there's any unit. We don't care if the unit is an enemy. And we don't care if there's any obstacles or anything. So let's get rid of all of these checks. So just like this. Okay, with this, let's see. Here we are, select the grenade, and yep, all of the valid areas are the ones around the player. Okay, great. Now let's handle the logic for spawning a grenade and throwing it. For that, let's first build the grenade object over here in the editor. So let's create a brand new object, an empty game object. Call this the grenade projectile. Then inside, let's create a new 3D object. Let's create a new sphere. Let's make it quite a bit smaller, so maybe 0.3, 0.3, 0.3, okay. So there's our grenade, a nice small ball. Then also let's get rid of the sphere collider. So we've got just the visual. Now let's make a proper material for it. So let's go into our materials folder. Let's create a brand new material. Let's make this the grenade. Go into our sphere, assign it, and let's make it a nice dark gray. So over here on the base map, just a nice dark gray, like that. Now obviously if you wanted, you could use a proper grenade mesh and a proper material, but since the grenade is so small and it's going to be moving quite quickly, for this use case really just a simple sphere works perfectly. So with here we have the grenade projectile visual. Now let's make a script to run it. So let's go into our scripts, create a brand new script called the grenade projectile. Let's select game object and attach it. So here we're going to need to receive a function to basically set up this object. So a public void, call it setup. And what we want is to receive a grid position for the target grid position. Then how we're going to move the object is with a movement on the world. So let's store a vector 3 for the target position. So this one in world coordinates. And then we set this. Let's go into the level grid, the instance, and get the world position from the target grid position. All right, that's it. So now let's make some very simple movement logic. So private void update, and on update, let's just do a transform.position, and we're going to move it. So we need to calculate a vector 3 for the move direction. We go into target position minus transform.position, and we normalize this direction. Okay, so we've got the move direction, move the transform.position by that direction according to a certain move speed and time.delta time. So up here, a float for the move speed, let's say 15f, it should be good. Okay, so we've got some basic movement. Now let's test when we reach the final position. So if we do a vector 3 dot distance between this transform.position and the target position. So if that one is under a certain reach target distance, so up here, let's define that. Let's say maybe 0.2 units. So if it is close enough, then over here, let's just destroy this game object. Okay, that's it. So some super simple code just moves towards the target position and destroys itself. Now let's go into the grenade action script. So over here, let's go down to where we're taking the action. And here we want to spawn that grenade projectile. So let's actually make a reference for it. So up here, let's make a serialized field. Private transform for the grenade projectile prefab. Then on the take action, so down here, we simply call instantiate on this prefab. Let's instantiate it on the unit, so unit.get the world position with no rotation, so quaternion.identity. We instantiate this, so this is a transform for the grenade projectile transform. We have this, then from this one, let's get the component of type grenade projectile. We get this reference, and then on this one we can call setup and pass in the target grid position. Okay, so that's it, some super simple logic. Let's just add the projectile prefab reference. Here in the editor, let's go to our prefabs folder, just drag the grenade projectile and delete it from the scene. Then select the unit prefab, and down there on the grenade action, let's drag the grenade projectile prefab. Okay, there it is, let's test. So here we are, select the grenade, and if I click on this position, yep, there you go, the grenade is spawned, it goes there and destroys itself. Okay, so far so good. Now let's make it deal damage in an area. So on the grenade projectile script, over here we do the update, okay, we get there, alright. Then here, let's check if there are any objects around this. And for that, we're going to do a simple physics query. So we go into physics. In this case, checking for a simple overlap works. So here we've got all kinds of shapes. Now for grenade, a sphere shape makes the most sense, so let's go with the overlap sphere. This one will return all of the colliders within this sphere area. First thing we have is the position, so let's use the target position. Then we've got the radius, so let's define some kind of radius. Now you could make it as a serialized field, or if you want, let's just define it over here. So just a float for the damage radius. Although here, do be careful, remember that grid positions are the size of 2 world units. So here in the editor, for example, this is 1 grid position, but this is 2 in world units. So if you want the grenade to have this range, the range of 1 grid position, if so, then we need to use 2 world units as the radius. And if we want a range of 2, then we need to use 4 and so on. So up here, let's go with damage radius of 4f. And we use it here, so the damage radius. Then if we want, you can also apply a layer mask, just in case you want to only test for certain colliders on certain layers. But in our case, let's just get them all. So let's just do this. So this returns a collider array. And then we can just do a simple cycle on this collider. So do a for each collider in the collider array. And over here, let's go into the collider and check if it is a unit. So let's do a try get component of type unit, out unit for the target unit. So if this succeeds, then that means there's a unit within range. And if so, then let's just go into this target unit and just call the damage function. Now here, again, of course, we have another game design question. So how much damage to deal? If you wanted, you could make it distance based. So the further the unit is from the explosion, the less damage it receives. Or you can make multiple types of grenades dealing multiple damage amounts. So as usual, this is extremely adaptable. Here, let's just keep it simple and give some nice simple damage. Let's do it a bit less than shooting, since this is going to be an AoE damage effect. So let's say just 30. Okay, so that's really it. So when the grenade explodes, we do a physics query in order to find all the colliders around the explosion area. If any of them contain a unit, then we're going to damage that unit. That's it, super simple. So here we are, let's go with the grenade, throw the grenade right next to the enemy, and it throws, boom, there you go. It gets there and it does damage the enemy. Okay, great. Also here, one quick note, if I throw the grenade right next to my player unit, yep, there you go, it also damages the player unit. Once again, this is another design question, so do you want to limit damage to only the enemies, or do you want them to damage all of them? Again, that's a design question, there's no right or wrong answer. So in our case, let's leave it with both of them, so the player can't just easily abuse all the grenades. Okay, so all the logic is working, so it is indeed damaging units within an area. Now the only issue that we have is the action is instant. So for example, let's go here to the unit script. Instead of giving 2 action points, let's give it 9. So now if I select the grenade and I spam, there you go, all kinds of grenades. Now obviously this is not intentional. This is a turn-based game, so we really should be waiting for the action to complete before we can take another action. So let's go here to the grenade action script. And over here on update, we're completing the action right away. So let's not do this. Let's get rid of that. And just with that change, right now if I try spamming, nope, does not work. Now the other issue is that we are stuck in busy, so I can't do anything. So what we really need is a callback on the grenade. So we throw the grenade and we pass in a callback. Then when the grenade explodes, the grenade won't call that callback. For that, let's go here to the grenade projectile, and on the setup function, let's receive another variable. This one is going to be of type action, so we need to go up here using system. Okay, so we've got an action, let's call it on grenade behavior complete. So in the behavior for this script ends. So let's receive this and let's store it. So up here, let's make a private on grenade behavior complete, okay? Then down here, let's save it. So this, and finally over here, when we destroy this grenade, when we do that, let's call this callback. Okay, that's it. So now we can go into the grenade action script, and down here we are calling the take action. So let's make a function that is going to be our callback. So private void, call it the same thing on grenade behavior complete. And over here we're just going to do the action complete, and we pass in this function as our callback. Okay, that's it, super simple. Let's test. Alright, so here we are, let's select the grenade, let's throw it, gets there, boom, there you go. Yep, it does explode and it goes back into non-busy. So now I can throw another one, and when it gets there, yep, just like this. Okay, great. Finally, let's just make sure that our code is indeed working with multiple units. So let's duplicate this enemy, put them one in there and one there, let's test. So here we are, and if I fire a grenade somewhere in there, let's see, yep, they all take damage. Alright, great. So here we implemented a really nice grenade action. It deals damage within a radius, so it can damage multiple units. The logic is all working perfectly, although visually it looks extremely basic, so let's add some nice visuals in the next lecture.